This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
Yeah, we're at it again. We're so glad that you're here with us. And this time I want to start off a little bit different. The longer we seem to be doing the podcast, we get more and more feedback from people. And we appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
It's really nice to hear what people have to say. And there's an email that I got from a gentleman that has autism. So he's on the spectrum, and he's middle-aged, and he had some advice for me, some criticism. I was debating on saying whether it was criticism. Maybe it was criticism, but it was his observation. So I suppose it depends on how I take it, right? And I think it was very helpful. It was very helpful, and so and it goes into what we were doing the podcast today about anyway. And so it's really cool that he sent this and shared some information and gave some advice, and so I want to talk about that a little bit today during the podcast. I'm going to start out with one thing that he's asking you.
Okay.
All right. In this email that I got from him, he said, first, there's a question for you. He wants to know, what is your superpower?
My superpower?
Mm-hmm. What is your superpower? He says that, yeah. I can think of a few of them. But he said that he has a few senses that are heightened, like smell, hearing, and touch. And let me just say that this email is from Richard.
Okay.
And we won't give his last name.
Okay.
But Richard, if you're listening to this podcast, I just want to thank you for sending this email to us. It really made an impact and made me think and realize some things, so I really appreciate this email from you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he wants to know, what is your superpower?
I'm a powerful telekinetic. No, my superpower would probably... I know that whenever a lot of things happen all at once,
mm-hmm.
my brain slows it down. So that, like, for example,
like in the movies when something happens and then it goes so fast, but when they slow it down, you see things that you didn't see when it was going real time?
No, I mean, I see things as a slowed down version without being slowed down. How can I explain this?
Well, it sounds like a superpower already.
For example, let's say that there was something that fell down,
mm-hmm.
and there was a series of sounds that it made.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be able to differentiate exactly how many different sounds there were.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to try and do this sound, okay?
Okay. All right.
What? You just saw what I did,
mm-hmm.
And it was probably really loud to you guys, so I'm sorry about that. What I did was, I snapped 2 fingers and I clapped. All in rapid succession. I'm able to make those differences in that amount of time that I could tell that it would be 2 snaps and a clap. Even though I did it. But I mean, like, if it was an outside source, my mind slows it down, and I'm able to tell exactly how many times something has sounded and what the sound is.
So how would that be different than other people, because you would be able to distinguish how many different sounds were made, even though maybe most people... Because I heard 3 sounds as well. Do you hear also the sound of the fingers touching, not just the snapping?
Let me try and clarify it a little bit more.
Okay.
Let's say that there's fireworks going on.
Okay.
I'd be able to... I'm not really getting this across, am I?
Well, we'll give you a few minutes to figure that, to see if you can come up with something that really makes sense.
Okay.
What I can say about you is that in any given situation, even if we go someplace new, if we go someplace that we've been to many, many times before, you're able to recall facts about where we were that I didn't even pay attention to, that I didn't even see. When you listen to music, you're able to focus on things within the music.
Like, let's say it's one instrument. I'm able to focus in on that and what they're doing.
Well, yes, there's some things that you wouldn't normally be able to. Like, it seems like you'd really have to dissect it and break it down to find it.
Yeah.
But that's something that you can just hear.
Yeah.
Easily. What's funny is that when you're talking about sounds, so people are listening to this, and you just made a sound, and radio stations a lot of times do. Can you guess this? And
Yeah.
there was a show I think I was born yet, but it was name that tune or something like that. I think
they've been doing that for years.
And so on the radio they do that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're one time the radio station did this show, like, make an animal sound.
Yes.
And so if we can't guess it, then you can win. So your Aunt Becky called in.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, go. And this is what she did. She goes, okay, guess it. And they're like, what? They can't guess it. They couldn't do it. You didn't do anything. She goes, I'm a turtle. So she won. So anyway, yeah, she's always doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that I wanted to talk about and focus on this week in the podcast is the concept of consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And in this email, Richard brought up some pretty good points in regards to the consequences. So before we talk about the consequences, he said something that we talked about last week that we had mentioned, and I really thought that it was an insight that I had not thought about before, and I wanted to see what you thought about it.
Okay.
What he said, we were talking about going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, we went to the gym and then you disappeared and then you came back, and you've gone a number of times and it doesn't seem like you really like it. But what he said is that for me to think about this is that, because I'm neurotypical, I wouldn't be experiencing the same thing you did. But he says that his assumption is that the gym does not make you calm down like it does for me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help to relieve stress for you the way that it does me. And your idea of de-stressing is something that you've talked about before, which is, he puts it like curling up with a good book, but, that's your way to de-stress.
Yeah.
And, he makes a couple of points here that are really pretty enlightening, I think, which is that if he says that when you think about a gym for somebody that has autism, what you hear are the weights clanking and the bright lights, or the people, sweating, and the smell of not only the people sweating, but of the cleanser that's used, to keep it sanitary there. He said even the smells of the drinks that are like different, like whether it's protein drinks or,
right.
Because they sell those there and people
Right.
drink them, or the Gatorade, whatever it is. He mentions all those things. And I thought that was a really wonderful insight that I never even took into consideration.
Yeah.
And, so I just wanted to, ask you about that.
Okay. My relaxation is reading.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a little bit of an escapism? Yes. But for the most part, it's so that I'm okay. And I don't just have a breakdown.
Sure.
The gym is... I don't know how to use a lot of the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And without direction for what equipment to use, I tend to just stick to the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because it's stressful trying to go from one machine to the next.
Mm-hmm.
At least with the treadmill, I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to do, and it's not harmful. Like, it's not.
Sure.
It doesn't have the possibility of harming me.
Sure. So what you're saying is that when you think about using the equipment, that you have a concern that you're going to maybe do it in a way where it physically hurts you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because I don't have the knowledge to use them, let alone properly, it's very stressful.
Mm-hmm. So when I've asked you if you wanted me to set up a time, because they have people there that can show you and teach you how to use the equipment, and one time we even had it set up and then you didn't want to go, does that not solve the problem for you to have that trainer there that walks around with you? If you can tell him or her, because they have different trainers, so if you can tell him or her what it is that you're looking to accomplish, they can show you which machines to use. They can also give you a piece of paper that you have with you, so you don't have to do those by memory. It's typed out, so you know what to do on what day.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be a secondary issue altogether.
Yeah. Because
if all of the things that are included in the gym, like he's sharing for him, was his experience. If that's your experience, then what he's suggesting, that makes me wonder with you, does it just stress you out more going to the gym than if you didn't go to the gym?
A bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So knowing that that's the case, then maybe we should look at, and you should look at another way to get exercise that doesn't involve, having to go to a place that makes you uncomfortable.
Right. One thing I like about it
Mm-hmm.
is that...
Tootsie Rolls.
What?
Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, yeah. They have Tootsie Rolls there.
big bus. But it's never made sense to me. You go to the gym and work out, and then they have giant tubs of Tootsie Rolls.
Because you get rid of so much of your energy and sugar that you're... that some people who may be diabetic or whatever like that...
Yeah, that's true.
Their blood sugar gets too low.
Mm-hmm.
Even just normal people, their blood sugar gets too low.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good idea to have a Tootsie Roll afterwards.
And they're delicious.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Except for the grape ones.
You don't like the grape ones?
No. Any false flavored grape, like other than actual grapes, make me sick to my stomach.
Really?
Yeah.
Any other flavors that do that?
No, just grape. You know why?
Oh.
Medicine.
Oh.
As a kid, the medicine that I took would make me sick to my stomach.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it was just disgusting to me. And so ever since I was a little kid, I've hated the grape flavor of different candies or whatever. Like if it wasn't real grapes, I could not eat it.
So I kind of interjected there.
Yeah.
What were you going to say about the gym that you like about it?
Fans. It's nice and cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which is surprising for a gym.
Mm-hmm.
Because most gyms that you think of are like compact, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Compacted in.
Mm-hmm.
And with this place, the roof is like 3 stories tall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's huge fans that are always on, and it's just nice and cool in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I do like.
Mm-hmm.
That it's nice and open.
Mm-hmm.
And cool. But it's so exhausting to go there mentally.
Okay.
That when I get home, I just want to rest. Not just from the physical exertion, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's figure something else out then. All right?
All right.
I know that it's important for you to get physical exercise.
Yeah.
For you to be healthy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We'll come up with something.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can just walk or ride your bike. Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't take you to the gym anymore.
Okay.
All right. Done. Okay, so what was planned to talk about today were consequences.
Oh, no.
So, I was thinking about it, and consequences, they're always consequences. There's a relationship between action and inaction and the consequences that come of that action or inaction.
Right. Inaction is still an action.
Inaction is an action?
Or it's a choice, I guess.
Right, sure. Right, but one way or another, whether you do something or you don't do something,
there's going to be a reaction.
Right. There's consequences to everything.
Yeah.
And one thing that was brought to my attention and was kind of requested to ask and talk to you about is this we have talked before about patterns, and I'm wondering if patterns play a part in, like, your patterns that you walk with patterns.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you stand, the way that you position yourself,
the way I brush my teeth,
the way you brush your teeth, all of those things that we've talked about before. Can patterns be implemented in your adult responsibilities to be able to help you remember?
No, absolutely not. No, I'm kidding.
You hate consequences, don't you? So patterns, could they be used with these things that you have a very difficult time with?
Right. Let me try and explain something before you go further with that.
Okay.
Whenever I first wake up, I have what some people call a morning ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you get up, and brush your teeth after eating breakfast and all that stuff. For me, I get up, I go take my medicine, go use the bathroom, come back and eat something, and then I brush my teeth, if I remember that part. I still have trouble with that. And it follows that sequence. And so if that sequence doesn't happen, it makes my day a little bit more difficult in my mind.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. So could there, if that pattern was brought to other things that you do in your life, the expectation of...
The problem with doing that, though, is that makes any minor change that may occur that much harder to adapt to.
Well, what if that... But if it's not getting accomplished anyway, if the things that you can do for yourself, responsibilities, if you're having a difficult time maintaining them anyway, it's something that has not been looked into, is to create the pattern within your responsibilities. Because the goal of this is to for you to move forward independently and to be able to live on your own. I know that yesterday you went to a job fair.
Yeah.
And you're going to be having an interview coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of things that adults do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there can be a way that you can independently stay on track of your adult responsibilities, I think it's worth looking into.
Okay.
And I had never thought of this before. And again, we're going back to this email. This Richard sent a fabulous email with so many different points, and coming from a point of view of somebody that is on the autism spectrum. So he says what you just said is that he's got to do things in a particular order. And if that order gets altered, out of whack, then he's not going to be able to guarantee that all of those steps were taken.
Yeah.
So he does things with a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just because the consequences have been very difficult to implement. And I do take responsibility for that, and I think that's just the way it is. There's no excuses. I take responsibility. Sometimes I don't know, maybe we'll start something sometimes, and then I get busy doing something or whatever, and I don't follow through. And I don't know.
But that shouldn't be on you.
Well,
it really shouldn't be on you.
I agree.
I'll admit that it really helps, but it shouldn't be on you.
What I've noticed is that if I'm not there and available to help to keep you on track, then you have a difficult time initiating these things on your own. So we've talked about executive functioning. Mm-hmm. We've talked about patterns, and the consequence of the action or the inaction is something that I think is pretty significant. That the other day I said to you, so what if in the morning you clear the dishwasher before you eat breakfast, and that you don't get to eat breakfast until the dishwasher's been cleared. And if that was a pattern that was set, then that's something then that becomes your responsibility. I don't even have to be involved in it anymore, because you're going to want to eat.
Yeah.
And I understand that you said that you already have this pattern in place.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that what if your adult responsibilities
were implemented into it?
Yeah.
Well, I can see that, and I can see what you're trying to say with that. in particular, the issue with the dishwasher is that sometimes it's not ready by the time I'm supposed to clean it.
So if that was the case, then you wouldn't have to clear it because it's.
But then it'd come up later in the day. Why didn't you do this?
No, it wouldn't. If the dishwasher is dirty.
No. I mean, like sometimes it's dirty and then it's run later in the day, and then most of the time I don't know that it's been run.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's times where it's running. Like you would start it in the morning. I get up, I see it's running, and then I completely forget about it because it's not ready yet. Like I put it out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just go with the rest of the stuff. Because there's no set time for it or anything, I can't really plan for it.
So what if we make this the arrangement? What if we make the arrangement that becomes part of that morning pattern? If the dishwasher is clean, you empty it. If the dishwasher is not clean in the morning so that you can empty it, then if it gets run later on in the day, then somebody else empties it. So that your pattern can stay what it needs to be. I mean, there might be, I don't know. There might be people out there going, no, that's,
I don't think that's a good idea because most of the time it ends up being later that it's done.
I don't agree with that because often what happens, so
maybe
think about this. We don't leave when we don't.
What I mean is maybe 4 days a week. 4 days out of a whole week as a whole it's either running or it hasn't been run yet.
Well, I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that is because every time that we have dinner here, so we're talking about when we go out to eat, what have you, there's not going to be the dishwasher full like it would be that if we've eaten here.
Right.
But we don't leave a mess in the kitchen overnight.
Right.
Let
me clarify that. You guys don't. I occasionally do.
Well, there's been times when if you've been asked to do the dishes, then and there's things that you miss,
mm-hmm.
and I haven't gone in there, so I don't see that it's been done until not done until the next morning.
Right.
But you're getting a lot better at that, and we've got this worked out so that when you do that, you call me in. Does the doctor suggested that the therapist suggested that you call me in? And we go from one side to the other to see what you missed and, to point that out in a way that's not
upset or anything like that.
Exactly.
But that it's just a matter of fact.
Right.
It's something I missed, something I did right, something...
Right. Yeah. All of it. Yeah. All of it. Right. And so... Yes, so that being the case, there have been things that have been missed, but for the most part, we live in Florida, so there are dirty dishes are not left out.
Right.
As a rule, because of bugs. Yes. So what I'm saying is that if you were to make that part of your pattern in the morning, what I feel like is happening is that since this is consequences, let's just talk about the nitty-gritty.
Mm-hmm.
You're at a point in your life where I feel like you want to be independent. We're at a time in our lives where we want you to be independent, and it's a good idea to really get down to what's not working and come up with a solution to get it to work. And what's been happening is that it's been very difficult to to have consequences, to implement consequences, because, well, I sometimes don't know if you're having an off day, if things seem difficult for you. There's times where things to you seem louder than normal, where things seem more difficult to even function. You've told me before, I don't feel right.
Yeah.
We've talked about it, and, you don't seem to be able to pinpoint it, but you just don't feel right. So then there's like a back and forth, well, okay, where you just don't do something of responsibility that you're asked to do.
Right.
And I guess what I'm saying is that, and Richard mentions this in the email too, it reinforces what I had been thinking, which is that it's just a time in your life where you need to be doing things that adults do. And so...
But that's boring. No.
And the consequences notoriously have been very difficult. And so let me finish that thought that I just had, which is that I guess there is this fine line. So as a parent to someone that has autism, for me personally, I don't know always if it's autism that's, making it difficult for you to on that particular day, on that particular responsibility. So we're not saying in general right now, but I'm talking about specifics. I don't know if it's that or if it's that you don't want to do it. And there's times that I really don't know the difference. And there's been times where I've thought that you were just trying to get out of doing something, and then I was pushing back, and when I pushed back, I realized that, oh, that was legitimate, and then I feel like a jerk because I'm, So, I think that probably a lot of it is me not knowing quite what to do. And I don't want to be a part of you not accomplishing what you could really accomplish because I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not.
It does.
Okay. And, the consequences have been, like, what? What can we do? I mean, short of, ultimately, we ask you to do things and you don't do them. So how, there's got to be consequences in order for you to stay on track then. And what I'm saying is that rather than saying that there's always a negative consequence to something, I really like this idea of those patterns that you live by anyway, using those to implement your behaviors so that the consequence is a positive consequence.
Right.
So that clearing the dishwasher before you eat in the morning is something that becomes part of your pattern or your habit, and after that, then you eat.
Okay.
Then it alleviates me saying, can you just go do that? It alleviates me needing to prompt and redirect all the time.
Right.
And because it seems like part of the consequences so far I guess I would say, have been negative, because it's me getting after you to do something and then you forgot.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've used is a watch. We've got you the watch. And yet I know that you've told me before, if you don't do something when you think about it, you don't remember to do it.
Right.
And so...
The watch is still a great idea. I just need to set the alarms.
Okay.
And remember to wear it.
Yes.
Because I don't like sleeping with it.
I understand. So these kind of things can become a habit of yours that then become a pattern, which is when you get up in the morning, put on your watch.
Yeah.
So today, before today's over, you can research and set the alarms.
Yeah.
I thought that you had already done that from the last time that we talked about it.
No, I forgot.
Okay. these are the kind of things I'm talking about, that if I go on my way, you go your way.
Yeah.
I'm busy doing my stuff and I don't think about it, and I find out, on a podcast that something hasn't been done. Yes, that something hasn't been done. So what I'm thinking about is that if these responsibilities, if these adult responsibilities can be placed in the mix, and that a pattern takes hold, if that's something that can help you to... So the consequence in that is that you do the dishwasher and then you eat. And I know that I mentioned this the other day to you, and you said withholding food is not I think you said justifiable or appropriate.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not withholding food. I'm not starving you to death. That's not the plan here. The plan is for you to recognize that you have responsibility.
Yeah.
And so a responsibility is, and what can happen is that I'm the one that runs the dishwasher. So I've got to run the dishwasher the night before, so in order for you to be able to clear the dishwasher the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
So can we start there? Let's just do that. You wake up in the morning, you put your watch on. You go do whatever, you've got to do, but before you eat breakfast, you clear the dishwasher.
Still don't like that, but
But it does alleviate me having to be involved in that conversation, and it creates you being responsible for what you do.
I think that if I set my alarm for 1 o'clock, I'm just saying my thoughts out loud. Because you just gave me that look.
Yeah, I gave you a look. Yes, I sure did.
So, let's say I set it for 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to be awake. I know I'm going to be okay at that time and free to do whatever. If I set my alarm at 1 o'clock, then I have a set time that I do the dishwasher. That means that if it wasn't run the night before, it can be run in the morning, and it'll be ready for whenever the alarm goes off. And not only will I have an alarm that tells me that, hey, I need to do this, but it is a daily occurrence, and it could become a part of my routine without messing up the original routine.
I see what you're saying, but what's the consequence? I mean, this is the whole thing that we're talking about with the consequences today, which is that it's been notoriously difficult to apply consequences, and those consequences always seem to come from my direction, right? So that I'm reminding and prompting, and then when you do those things, then there's a positive consequence. And then if it's not, the negative consequence, is what? And that's been something that's this balance that's very difficult for me to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying to you about this morning routine that becomes a pattern is that then that's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
See, because if it's just an alarm that goes off, then what's the consequence? Because if it becomes a pattern in the morning, you don't eat breakfast if the dishwasher's not clear. So there's a consequence there. Yeah. Because you're going to want to eat breakfast, and it just makes, because what you're talking about, this has been our pattern, which is ideas come up, things are set in motion,
and then it's not followed through.
It doesn't happen. Correct. And I'm responsible for this as well, because some things get set up, and then I get busy doing my writing, doing what I need to do, and And if I'm not right there, then there's not I'm not there to implement the consequences. And what I'm saying is that it's time to set a pattern in place that makes it so that it's part of a pattern, and before you get to do the thing that you want to do, which is to sit down and eat breakfast while you're reading, before that can happen, this responsibility needs to take place.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that I understand your dilemma, that if the dishwasher is not clean and that doesn't happen, then you're going to be asked to do it later on. What I'm saying is, let's alleviate that issue.
My bigger issue, other than that, is that it's messing up a routine that I have had for months now, if not years, where it's the routine I said earlier.
Right.
Screwing up a routine like that messes up my day. I'm trying to get that across, but it's.
And I understand what you're saying, that you've done things a certain way, so that to make changes in that steadfast routine will throw your day off.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about consequences, we've tried everything else, and there seems to not be consequences that are helpful in getting you to accomplish these adult responsibilities. So if we just say that you set your alarm at 1 o'clock, well, if you don't do it, what's the accountability? What's the consequence? See what I'm saying is, it's really hard because it turns into this dynamic of me asking you to do something and you saying okay, and then if it's not done right, then that you forget it, and then I've done my work, and then I'm done with my work, and I see that what you agreed to accomplish earlier wasn't done. And then, other than me being upset with you for not accomplishing something that you said you were going to do, what's the consequence? And what I'm saying is that there's got to be a point here in our lives where you begin to do the things that you need to do as an adult.
I understand. I'm honestly not sure what a consequence could be for this.
Yeah, because I don't. Right, and I don't want things to be negative. So what we've been living is what I just described, and then it feels frustrating.
Yeah.
And it feels frustrating to me, and then when I bring it back to you, you often are in the middle of something else, so that's frustrating to you to have to stop doing what you're doing to then go clear the dishwasher.
Yeah.
So while I think the alarm situation is really good, ultimately, that's going to be the thing that helps you out, there's got to be a shift here where you understand that you're responsible for the adult part of your life. And I'm here to help you with things as you need them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will drive you to places that you need to go. Serious things. A job interview, I drove you to that. I drive you to doctor's appointments. And to groups where you're a mentor.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I feel like we're at a point in time where you would benefit so much from us having this routine, a routine that comes about and is implemented in order for you to be responsible for the things that you need to do. So that I'm not always the one going, did you do this?
Right.
Will you do this? Coming back again and again. And there are times, honestly, where you're like, okay. And there's times when you go, oh, shoot, I forgot.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you're just always trying to get out of stuff. I'm saying that I really see that this is difficult for you. And it's also difficult for me. And I feel like we're at a point in our lives where that needs to change. So I think we would get along much better. I really do. But I feel like you would be happier too.
Yeah.
And it's not just the dishes that we're talking about. It's the things that are in your adult life.
Yeah.
And so, would you be willing to start here with what I'm bringing up? Because I don't really know what else I have to bargain with right now. You like to eat.
I would ask that we try my way first.
Okay.
And that as soon as we're done with this podcast, that I go set the alarm and work with it there.
What's the
for a week
What's the consequence
of not doing it?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're just saying that...
I don't have much of a social life. I don't do things anymore.
I know.
And that makes it so much more difficult for me to be reprimanded for something.
Reprimanded meaning...
Getting in trouble.
Meaning, like get specific
consequences.
On that. I didn't realize you were going to say that. Yes. So I'm saying... I was thinking, right, so you being held accountable for not doing something
is more difficult because I don't have things that can really be taken away or anything.
Right. And the fact is, Josh, I don't want to take things away from you.
Yeah.
You're an adult. No, I don't want to take things away from you. That's just not part of how I want to live life.
Right.
And so also a way that I don't want to live life is to
constantly take care of me.
Well, yes, but that sounded kind of harsh. Because I feel like what we need to move into is you accomplishing these activities on your own without prompting, because the goal is to get you to be able to live on your own.
Yeah.
And that being the goal means that if you have consequences and that there's a pattern set in place, then it's something that you just naturally do. So if you're living on your own, you're going to be able to put different activities in line, in a pattern, and those get accomplished before you do something that you want to do.
Right.
Which is, whether you do a lot of things online now.
Yeah.
So if you were to accomplish things before you get online, if you accomplish things before you eat,
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, that really needs to be the change that takes place. And I think that you're going to feel... I think that there's going to be some level of empowerment that you get out of doing this. And I feel like unintentionally for sure, but still nonetheless, I have to own my part in all of it is that I feel like I have not been on the ball with this the way that I, look back, the way that would have been beneficial.
Right.
But I'm here now, offering this, saying let's do this different because it's not working the way that it is.
Okay. And
then I'm not, feeling like a jerk for getting on you, not knowing what with the, because it gets to a point, doesn't matter what the reason is, it needed to be done. Right?
Right.
And so then that's what I would really like to do is to transfer these responsibilities from me to you.
With love.
With love. Right. Okay, so
I think that's the first time I've actually sung on the podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Even if it was just a little part of it.
Yeah. So let's set something up, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I like my idea. You come up with something different, and let's see what you come up with.
All right.
But it's got to be something that makes it so that you are responsible, and you do it on your own, so that it can lessen that responsibility of mine to prompt and redirect.
Okay.
And again, the biggest reason for this is I think we're both going to feel better, but it is important that you start feeling better about yourself.
Okay.
Because I feel like too, it's not us nagging you does not help your self-esteem. So we should just stop that.
Okay.
Okay. Good deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, give me 5. All right. Okay, so are we done? Anything else?
No.
You have anything else to say? No?
I'm awesome.
You are awesome. You are awesome. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us again today.
Yeah.
I really appreciate, like I said at the beginning, the emails, the connections that we're making through this.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes, Richard, thank you for that. Made a big difference and was helpful to us. So everybody, thank you for those. Thank you for listening, and we'll just remind you once again that Josh and I are available to speak and do a Q&A at the end of the speech for your function, whether it's a conference or whatever it is, association, organization, or business.
Yeah.
We'd love to come and be a part of it. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real good thing.
Yep. All right, everybody. You have a great day. Love you.
Bye.